Hey, I'm Paul Balck with Balck CPA Review. Welcome to our video blog. Today we're going to be going over FAR. We're just going to do a little bit of a financial accounting and reporting snapshot. Just a little bit about what the exam is. So here's the deal with the format of the exam. So you've got a format. The exam is 4 hours. Okay, so it's the longest exam. With auditing being 4 hours and Balck and regulations being 3 hours. You've got 3 testlets at 30 questions per testlet for a total of 90 questions, okay? Of these 90 questions, 15 of them are pre-test questions. Again, a pre-test question is a question that doesn't count towards your exam score. It's a question that the AI CPA is using as research. They're trying to figure out how hard that question is and how long it takes people to do it. So when they include it in the future, they know what kind of score to give it. Okay? And along those lines, FAR is what's known as a progressive exam. So testlet number 2, the questions from that testlet are based on how well you did on the first testlet. So the first testlet, if you do well on it, testlet number 2 gets harder. The questions are worth more points, so you have to answer fewer of them to pass, but they're harder questions. And again, testlet 3 is based on how well you did on testlet 2. It's progressive also in the sense that you start off with a score of 0, and for each question you answer correctly, they add to your score until you reach a certain amount, get your 75 and you pass. And this is opposed to having a 100 score, and like you do in school, and they say, okay, you start off with 100, but you miss 3 questions, you get an 80. We're adding to our score here, which means never leave a question blank. It doesn't hurt you if you get it wrong, so don't leave it blank. You might guess and get it right. So that being said, this is a progressive exam. All right, so you've got 30 multiple choice questions. So you got your 30 multiple choice questions. Now you have your task-based simulations. Okay, so your task-based simulations for FAR, you have 7. Okay, you have 7 task-based simulations. That's opposed to something like regulations, one of the shorter exams, which only has 6. Now, with regulations, you either have 1 or 2 task-based simulations that are pre-test, again, meaning that they don't count. All right, and with the task-based simulations, what the AI CPA is doing is testing your ability to actually perform the task. Your multiple choice were, based on concept. Do you know the concept? Task-based simulations, they want to know if you can actually apply that concept. So they might have you do something like a statement of cash flows for FAR or journal entries, things like that. Along with these task-based simulations, you're going to have a research question. Again, the research question is worth the fewest points on the total exam. It's worth the fewest points. So save it for last. It takes quite a while sometimes to really feel like you've gotten the correct answer, the correct section. Leave it for last. Do all the other task-based simulations first, then do that one last. Worth the fewest points, can eat up the most time. If you don't answer the research question, if you run out of time, don't panic. You really can pass without it. It's okay. Okay? The breakout here, the multiple choices were 60% of your total score. Task-based simulations are worth 40%. Don't neglect the task-based simulations. I said this in our earlier video blog, but I'll say it again. The task-based simulations are important. A lot of people who fail the exams, if you fail the exam, you get something from NASBA, and you look at the back of it, and it tells you where you didn't score well. It tells you how you ranked on each of the concepts for multiple choice and then your task-based simulations. People who fail almost always come back and say, we didn't do well on task-based simulations. What the heck? And you say, well, how'd you study for them? Oh, well, I did multiple choice. No, doesn't work. You have to do task-based simulations as practice for task-based simulations. It's worth 40%. They bumped that amount up. Before 2011, it was worth less. Now, in 2012, it's worth 40%. It's quite a bit. You've got to take the time to review task-based simulations. How do you review for it? Do task-based simulations. If you order our study review program, you get a book that includes 100 task-based simulations, okay? So you'll be prepared if you do those. All right, so those are your task-based simulations. Let's look at some pass rates. Okay, so FAR in 2011 and FAR in 2012. So cumulative score in 2011 for the entire year for FAR was 45.57%. 45.57%. Okay? Now for 2012, FAR is 43.84. These are your pass rates, okay? So people are having more trouble in 2012 than they did in 2011. But also, again, notice that pass rates are still below 50%. This is an extremely difficult test, no matter how you slice it, okay? So, for 2011, the only one lower was regulations. So the only score lower in 2011 was regulations, with 44.22%. So it wasn't that much lower. Now in 2012, regulations has the lowest pass rate. Regulations, in my opinion, is the hardest exam there is in the CPA exam, of the 4 CPA exams. Why? There's so much information. It's so broad. It ranges over so many different topics. And that being said, so what it covers GAAP, Generally Accepted Accounting Principles, for business enterprises, not-for-profit organizations, and government accounting. So you've got, not only do you have GAAP for businesses, but you also have government accounting, GAAP, for government accounting. You're going to have GAS, which kind of sounds funny to say, you're going to have gas, but let's see here. You're going to have international reporting standards. We now have IFRS. You're going to have to know international accounting standards now. Don't worry. If you have a good review program, it really spells out IFRS for you. And with 2012, you don't actually have to know how to apply it that much. You really just need to know the difference between GAAP and IFRS. So don't panic if you didn't have international accounting in school. It's not that big of a part of the exam. However, you need to study it. A good study program, Black CPA Review, we provide that for you. We provide you with an IFRS study. Okay, so it's going to have IFRS. And between GAAP, government accounting, non-for-profit accounting, and IFRS, you have such a broad range of topics that, in my opinion, one of the hardest exams out there. So, some tips for taking the FAR, Financial Accounting and Reporting exam. You need to read all of the exam choices, question choices. So, you'll read your question. There'll be 4 exam answers, 4 answers. You need to read each one before you select it, okay? What they like to do on the CPA exam is they'll give you a question that looks right, that your brain is going to say, hey, that looks right. They're going to give you a question that is sort of right, but there's one piece of it that makes it wrong. They're going to give you a question that's an answer that's completely wrong, and they're going to give you an answer that's right. And you've got to read all of them to figure it out. Don't just read one and say, oh, that's it, without reading the other ones. All right, now what you need to do is also scan for the word not. Not is an evil word in the CPA world for taking your exam, because people pass over it so often. Which of these is not, correct? Which of these is not included? Which of these is not? A lot of times people leave out not and they get the question wrong. So be cognizant of the not. Another thing you have to be very aware of are dates. If a date is in the middle of the year, notice that. Notice that you're going to have to take probably half the year's worth of whatever you're talking about. If you're talking about depreciation, and it says it's a calendar year company, and they tell you from July 1st to December 31st how much depreciation, recognize your date. It's halfway through the year, you're taking half the depreciation. You got to be very aware of dates, especially in FAR. More so than any other exam, dates are important in FAR. All right, and then finally, take practice exams. FAR is a long exam. 4 hours is a long time to be answering questions. our brain tends to tap out at 3 hours. 4 hours is past that. It's tough. So what you need to do is prepare yourself, like running a marathon. You don't just go out and run a marathon. You practice for it. You build up. You're going to want to put yourself in test-taking situations. You're going to want to time yourself for practice exams. You want to go into a place that's kind of noisy, go to a Starbucks, go to a coffee place, and take a 4-hour exam a couple times before you actually take your real exam. 1, it'll just give you good review. You're going to be answering a bunch of questions. 2, it's going to make sure that you're pacing correctly, that you're spending the right amount of time on your multiple choice, on your task-based simulations, that you're not going over. Thirdly, it's going to get you prepared for using your brain for that amount of time to answer tough questions. So you're going to have to be very engaged for a long period of time, and this will get you used to it. So those are the tips for FAR. Remember, FAR, in my opinion, is one of the hardest exams, but it's definitely doable. Get a good review program like Balck CPA Review. We've got our audio, our note cards, the video, the outlines, everything you need. I'm also here for you. You can call us at our 1-800 number, email me through my website, and I'll get back to you. Here's the deal. If you want to leave comments below the video, I can get back to you on the comments section of this video blog. And I can post other video blogs if you have ideas of some questions you need answered pertaining to the CPA exam. So that being said, our next 2 video blogs coming next week will be a snapshot of Balck and a snapshot of auditing. So good luck. Check out BalckCPAReview.com. Look at our website. We've got some tips, some free checklists and pointers for you there, and also just good study review. And thank you for spending the time to look at our video blog.